Hello and welcome back to ChäoS Noah. My name is Maybe Dennis, and last time we started Yua's route, where we got to see more about Yua's mindset and thinking why she thought that Takumi was Shogun, aka the killer. And she wrote the "Whose eyes are those?" in the classroom, only to see Takumi react to it a lot. So she's like, oh yeah, he's the one. And then once we were actually on her route, we see her talk to Bon, and they kind of dismiss her theory, but in this route, she's like, no, it's him for sure. So she raids his house, essentially, his little container, and like binds him onto his bed and just continues to pester him and telling him to get his other personality Shogun to come out to no avail because we know he isn't Shogun. And now we're in this stalemate where she's just trying to get him to get Shogun to come out, and Takumi's like, I don't know what to do, man. I don't know. I'm not Shogun. But yeah, well, today I plan on finishing this route, and let's see how this craziness and this stubbornness will lead us to. An hour or so passed. My stomach was hurting bad. I wanted to scream in terror, but I couldn't. Yeah, I hear you. Just stop. Only once is enough. She was still right in front of my face, staring at me. She still had the fork with the pasta up against my lips. She'd been like that the whole time. Okay, stop it. I think you have DID, man. She kept whispering over and over again in a low voice. It felt like she'd been doing it for at least an hour. The whole thing was so eerie that I couldn't move a finger. This must have been how a frog feels when a snake is bearing down on it. She hadn't hurt me. She wasn't trying to force the pasta into my lips. But the terror I felt towards her was growing more and more intense. All she was doing was waiting for me to eat. The reason it felt so creepy was that a normal person would have given up after 5 minutes. She'd been waiting for it over an hour. If she just screamed, "Eat the food already!" and grabbed me by the hair and forced it into my mouth, at least that would have been normal. I couldn't tell what Yua was thinking. There was something very, very wrong about her. She was broken. She didn't even seem human. I was scared. I was completely terrified. I just wanted to get on my knees and beg her to let me go. An awful sweat was foaming over my whole body. Oh, forming, whoops. I mean, technically it would be kind of the same. The mental pressure was making it hard to even breathe. I never had a girl stare at me for this long from this distance. Had anybody? I mean, if she was my girlfriend and we were having a nice romantic chat, that would be one thing, but all she was doing was staring at me with a blank expression and cold eyes and mumbling "eat" over and over. This wasn't something that normally happened to people. Eat, you must eat. Eat, please. I learned so many ways to say eat from this one thing. I couldn't take her gaze anymore. I forced the words out of my mouth. They came out raspy and dry. Yua stopped whispering. She didn't move. She was still in the same exact position. I forced my mouth open. Trembling, I ate the pasta I refused for over an hour. It was dry, and eating it stole what little moisture remained in my already dry mouth. I swallowed it without even really chewing it. I didn't have it in me to try and figure out how it tasted. After she saw me do it, Yua blinked several times. She'd been frozen like a statue, and now she finally started to move. Is it good? Of course not. I couldn't tell her that though. I just nodded softly. Honestly, I feel like if anyone had DID, I would have thought it was you. She didn't look happy at all, though. The blank expression remained plastered on her face. She lowered the fork towards a plate. She grabbed another dry lump of pasta with a fork and raised it to my mouth again. Was I supposed to eat it all? Was she not going to let me go until I did? Oh, please let me go. I started to cry. I was so scared. But no matter how much I cried, it looked like she was going to stay like this until all the pasta was eaten. So I cried. But I ate. I kept letting her feed me the dry, disgusting pasta. And by the time I finished, I was mentally and physically exhausted. She spoke coldly, but finally moved away from me. She put the plate on my computer desk and returned to the sofa. Then she sat down and looked at me. Once again, she stopped moving completely. Please, don't look at me. Stop looking at me. I kept whispering in my heart. I was too scared to speak. Was she going to keep looking at me for a full 24 hours? This was mental torture. The idea made me feel miserable. I asked, sobbing. I had to ask.
僕に何の恨みがあって。
妹が死んだんです。
Huh? Sister? For just a moment, Yua looked like she was about to break into tears, but then the cold mask returned to her face.
集団ダイブの被害者の一人、私の双子の妹、ミヤって言います。私は妹を殺した犯人を許さないって思ってました。そしてあなたにたどり着いた。あなたの苦しみを知りました。私は妹がなぜ殺されなくちゃいけなかったのか、なぜ犯人が、将軍が妹を殺したのか知りたい。それとあなたも助けたい。
Well, that sure ain't working.
分かってください。分かってくれますよね。分かるはずです。
Oh my god. I hate this so much. I remember the group dive video uploaded to YouTube, so one of the victims screaming and crying in that video was her younger sister. After what had happened to Nanami, I could kinda understand how she felt. But that didn't mean I was sympathetic. She broke into my room and tied me to a post. Of course I couldn't sympathize with her. Now that I think about it, if they have the footage of the group dive, would they know what Mia looked like? And we can compare like whether or not she would look more like Yua or whatever Mia, compared to whatever Mia would normally wear. I completely lost track of how long I've been in here. You kinda would without windows. Oh, there were no windows in this room, so I couldn't even tell what time it was now.
その目誰の目ってどういう意味？どうしてこれから殺す相手に言わせたの？どうしてダイイングメッセージとして残したの？あなたは何を訴えたいの？
The only way to tell inside the base was to look at my computer clock or my cell phone. Tied to the bedpost, I couldn't do either. When I went to the bathroom, I was able to go outside, so I could get a general idea of what time it was then. But as this dragged on, I started to get reluctant to even go to the bathroom. Without any water, I didn't have any urge to pee. It felt like I hadn't needed to use the toilet for at least a full day now.
どうしてダーススパイダーなの？それを被ることで何を訴えたかったの？宗教的な意味があるの？ダークヒーロー願望？それともセランをバカにしたいだけ？
Yua barely moved. All she did was sit on the sofa. Occasionally, she would stand up for a little, or change how she sat, but nothing more. And the whole time, she kept whispering. It amazed me that she could talk so much. She didn't call or text anyone, or use the computer to kill time. She didn't sleep. All she did was ask me questions. The words themselves were starting to lose their meaning. I hated being stared at. Shogun's mind reading at least only happened once in a while. I hated it, but it wasn't unbearable. But having Yua watch my every action with her expressionless, cold eyes, that felt like it was striking a fatal blow at the very core of who I was. As long as I was tied up here, unable to move, I couldn't see anything changing. I lost track of how long I'd been tied up. I had no idea how many days it had been. It felt like it might have been only 2 days, but it also might have been a month. Not being able to move was really stressful. For the past several hours, I thought of nothing but how I wanted to see a clock. I couldn't think of anything else.
それとも、
Her head suddenly began to sway. She took off her glasses and rubbed her tired eyes. The effect of having no sleep at all was finally catching up with her. She was getting what she deserved for being so stupid. What she was doing was pointless, a waste of effort. If she would have just listened to what I was telling her, none of this would have happened.
いつ出てきてくれるんですか？
Her whisper sounded so pained. Was she talking to Shogun?
どうしたら出てきてくれるんですか？出てきてよ。
He's not coming. Sorry, he was never here in the first place.
待ってるから待って。
Oh, and she's gonna collapse. Her voice dropped off, and her body began to tilt to the side. She slumped over onto the sofa and laid there, unmoving. Had she fallen asleep? Had she finally run out of steam? I sighed in relief as the tension left my body. I hadn't had a moment's relief while she was staring at me, but now I could finally get a little rest. Oh, god damn it. I heard Seraton's voice coming from next to the PC monitor.
それどころかさ、今なら無防備なユアッチを逆監禁できるかも。そしたら、やりたい放題じゃん、ポケット。
Ah, man, I really hate this chick. I see. I could, for example, rape her or make her endure all the I can't do this. Trembling, I looked over at her face. Asleep, she was actually pretty cute. I remember the soft smile she showed me when we first met. Obviously, she had her reasons for thinking of me as her enemy. I thought that she was working for Shogun too, but she was the one who'd made me think that. She was the one who tricked me, lied to me, so even if I raped her or made her endure all kinds of sexy punishment, she wouldn't have the right to complain. I looked at her face again. Her eyelids were twitching. Her face was twisted in pain. Suddenly, a single tear left from the corner of her eye. Maybe she was dreaming about her dead sister.
タッキー、調教師ないの？
I couldn't, after seeing her cry.
監禁されて禁縛されてるのに？タッキーって聖人君子だね。優しすぎる。そこはタッキーのいいところだけど、時と場合によるよ。
No, it's not like that. Of course, I still couldn't forgive what she had done, but somehow my anger and my will to resist her were gone. Was it because I wasn't as nervous now that she wasn't staring at me, or because I had heard about what happened to her sister? Somehow, it felt like she actually wasn't going to hurt me. I felt incredibly sleepy. I decided to forget the pain in my arms from being tied up and just give into the sleepiness. I could figure out how to escape later. I woke up and felt something strange. Something was missing. That's how it felt. My eyes were still a little blurry as I looked around the room. Did his spines get unbinded? When I tried to stand up, the cord dug into my wrist, sending the pain shooting up through my arms. I remembered I was tied up. Nope, never mind. Yua was the one who tied me up. Yua wasn't here. That's what felt so wrong. I was the only one here now. Where'd she gone? Did she go make more food or to go to the bathroom? I had no idea how long Yua and I had been here, but neither she nor I had gone to school once during that time. The only times either of us left this room were either to cook or use the bathroom. I wasn't even allowed to take a shower. I let out a deep sigh. Yua was probably going to come back any minute now. Then she'd go right back to watching me. Did Yua have a really persistent personality? Or was it her anger and rage at her sister's death that was driving her to act so bizarrely? How could I get her to understand that I wasn't Shogun? Maybe I could show her the messages I'd received from him on my PC. But Yua was completely overtaken with her own delusions right now. A single email wouldn't change her mind. I needed something more definitive to prove that Shogun and I were separate people. If Shogun were to show up in my room, that'd do it. Of course, that'd be a problem on its own. I didn't want to see Shogun ever again. If he was here, that meant that he'd come to kill me.
ねえねえ、タッキー、逃げた方がいいよ。あたし、あんな思い込み激しいストーカー女に、これ以上タッキーがいじめられるのを見たくないもん。
Thank you, Sarah. I don't think I can untie myself, though. I tried a bunch of times, of course, but I'd failed. Yua had tied the knots tightly. They weren't budging.
あたしが3次元になれたら、今すぐタッキーを助けに行くのにな。
That's right, maybe 3D girls are better. But it also felt like staying here was the right move anyway. Trying to run might just make her mad. When she got mad, she was incredibly scary. I didn't want to do anything that might piss her off.
自分の命を守るために一番いい方法をちゃんと考えてるんだね。すごいよ、タッキー。だけどあたしさ、これ以上タッキーとあの女が同じ部屋にいるのは嫌だな。
I didn't either, but tied up like this, I'd just have to rely on her. Fortunately, she hadn't hurt me yet, and she was feeding me and even letting me use the bathroom. She was still treating me like a human being, kind of. And as soon as she figured out that Shogun wasn't going to show up, she'd let me go. She probably apologized, actually. When that happened, I'd make her get on her knees and beg for forgiveness, of course. I'd also make her let me touch her boobs or something too. Then we call it even. You would never appear in front of me again, and I'd never go to see her again either. If nothing else, she'd cease to be a threat, and if I was lucky, maybe I could even bring her over to my side. The real Shogun was still lurking out there. If I was really lucky, I could get Yua to protect me from him. She hated that person behind the new gen killings, and the enemy of my enemy was my friend. She and I wanted the same thing.
僕って頭良くね。天才じゃね。
Did you really have to say that out loud? I feel like if she heard that, she'd be like, oh, he's got some anti-defense DID mechanisms. I gotta go harder.
タッキーってば天才。私さ、ますますタッキーのこと好きになっちゃった。
Yeah, the smart move was just to hang in there. Oh god, I hate him so much. I hate her so much too. She sure was late though. There was still no sign of her. Quite a lot of time had passed, several hours at least. Probably several hours anyways. Where had she gone? It wasn't to the bathroom if nothing else. But she'd been gone for far too long for a shopping trip. She'd made several trips to the store to get food, and this was far longer than any of them. So where had she gone? School? I didn't know what time it was, but if it was daytime, she could easily have gone to school. If I could look at my schedule, I would have at least known what day it was. Say, for example, that she locked me up 3 days ago, and the first day was a Friday. In that case, the last 2 days would have been the weekend, and it would have made sense that she hadn't gone to school. In that case, today would be Monday, then she would have to have left for school. That's right, yeah, it has to be. What day had it been when she broken in here? My mind was all hazy, I couldn't think straight. What if it wasn't school though, like maybe she'd gone home? I could see some dumb, slutty teenagers sleeping over somewhere without telling her parents, but Yua didn't look like the type. Maybe she made up a lie or something to get their permission to not come home, but even so, after several days, they'd start to worry, so maybe she decided to head back home to reassure them? That theory made sense. Either way, she was sure to come back. My best move was probably to save my energy, to not move. I took a small deep breath and closed my eyes. Time to take a nap. I couldn't sleep. I closed my eyes and tried to sleep for several hours, but got nowhere. I kept looking at the door to see if Yua would come back. Occasionally, the door would shake a little when there was a particularly strong gust of wind. I'd look up at it, hoping that Yua had come back. There was still no sign of her at all, though. I was tied up and alone here in my shipping crate. She was so late that I decided to see if I could break my bonds. Bounds, or whatever. I was bound to the bedpost by nylon cords. If I struggled hard enough, I might be able to break them? I yanked my arm forward hard. Nope, that did not work. No good, they weren't budging. Maybe I was just weak. Of course, I was a wimpy otaku kid. I spent all my time on the computer playing video games or reading the net. I wasn't gonna be able to pull off any Hollywood heroics. I wasn't gonna be able to break them by force. I tried to think of another way. If I had a knife or something, like a knife, or something like a knife, that might do it. But there was nothing like that anywhere. All I could see were magazines or manga or CDs or discarded containers of food from the convenience store.
ダメだ。
I was such a loser, I couldn't even cut a nylon cord on my own.
ユアは戻ってくるよね。
Second form of torture. I whispered aloud as if trying to convince myself.
ねえねえ、タッキー。もしかしてさ、見捨てられたんじゃない？
Abandoned me? You mean she just left me here? She wasn't coming back? I needed her to come back, badly. I was helpless, tied up here on my own. If she was going to tie me up, she at least had to take responsibility for keeping me alive, right? I was overthinking things. She hadn't abandoned me. She would come back. She hadn't found out who Shogun was yet. Oh, she wouldn't give up this soon. Yua wouldn't abandon me. I'd be just fine.
知ってる？そういうのってさ、ストックホルム症候群って言うんよ。
Of course I knew what the phrase meant. But this wasn't that. I didn't have Stockholm Syndrome. No, I didn't! I wasn't dependent on her in any way. I didn't feel close to that crazy bitch in the slightest.
僕もつい最近、ナナミのことがあったから、ユアの気持ちはわからなくはないとかって脳内で妄想してなかったっけ？
Was I lying to myself? Was I trying to force myself to think that Yua was safe to be around? Maybe I was. Stockholm Syndrome involves your mind lying to itself to keep you safe. Stockholm Syndrome, let's see. A term used in psychology. During a hostage situation, hostages find themselves locked inside an enclosed space with their captor for hours or days at a time. In these cases, victims will sometimes report feeling love rather than hatred towards the people who imprisoned them. Okay, yeah, that I remember hearing about that. The name comes from a hostage case that occurred in Stockholm in 1973. But so what if I was lying to myself? In this situation, I didn't have any choice but to rely on Yua. Rimi had ditched me, and there was no sign of Nanami lately either. My parents were, according to Nanami, worried about me, but they hadn't actually come to see me, not even once. The only other person who knew I'd lived here was Yua. Yua was the only one I could rely on anymore. If it was a lie, it was a necessary one. One I needed to keep me alive. I didn't want to die, I didn't want Yua to hurt me, but I didn't have the courage to fight back with force. I'd have to cling to her for help. It was my only option. I'd have to keep being defenseless until she understood that I wasn't a threat. It was the only way for a helpless loser like me to survive. I would believe in Yua, and believing in her meant lying to myself. That was what it would take to get me out of this safely.
あんなストーカーメガネ女を信じちゃダメだよ。タッキーゆとりすぎ。
You stupid! Sorry, Saraton. This is the one time I can't listen to what you have to say. So please, come back soon, Yua. You'll come back, right? There she is. It happened out of nowhere. The door suddenly flung open, with no warning. I flinch away from the sound, sudden sound. I could see the sky outside turning the color of evening. Yua came inside, placing herself between me and the twilight. I felt so relieved when I saw her. Knowing that she hadn't abandoned me had made me so happy I thought I might cry. I hated myself for being so weak, but the sense of relief was far stronger than the hate.
おかえり。
Yua was all I had, so I said it, even though I knew how stupid it sounded. But...
あなた、邪魔だわ、西条くん。
still the same.
え?
Yua strode over to me, crouched down to my to my left and grabbed my hair. She pulled hard.
邪魔なの。あなたがいなければ将軍は出てくるはずなのに。なんでいるの？自重してよ。少し引っ込んでよ。あなたと話しても意味ないの。私はあなたと話したいんじゃない。出して。将軍を出しなさいよ。
Oh my god, this is frustrating. Something was wrong with Yua. Was she starting to run out of patience? Was it because Shogun was nowhere to be found? Was she about to resort to more forceful measures? This wasn't what I expected at all. I believed in her, believed that she wasn't going to hurt me. Was she going to betray me again? Oh, that's all on you, man. I was the only one who thought there was betrayal going on here. I realized the truth. I've been trusting her for no reason. Yua had never asked me to trust in her at all. Was I just being naive? Because I was an otaku and a loser? Because I wasn't used to dealing with people in the real world, I deserved to be deceived? If that was true, then I didn't need the 3D world at all. I'd rather just stay in the 2D world forever.
見て。
She shoved something in front of my face. It looked like a notebook.
妹の日記です。家に戻って取ってきたんです。これを読んであなたは知るべきです。妹は、ミヤちゃんは、集団ライブが起きるもっと前からあなたに、いえ、将軍に狙われていたんです。
Before?
ストーカーされていたんですよ。だから集団ライブ5人を殺すのが目的だったんじゃない。他の4人は巻き添え。狙いはミヤちゃん1人だった。そうでしょう。そうよね、将軍。答えて。出てきて、答えなさい。
Yua's voice was gradually becoming more and more hysterical. My heart was pounding with fear. I was shaking. No matter what had happened, I couldn't admit that she was right. All of this was her delusion. She was making it all up. I'd never met her little sister. I tried to shake my head, but the pain from her pulling my hair made it so I couldn't.
まだ出てこないつもりですか?
Her face got closer and closer. She whispered in my ear. And then she brought the diary up to eye level. Yua's diary.
見て。ミヤちゃんの苦しみを見なさい。
She can't even see that. It's oh, okay, so she is Mia. She's so deluded to thinking that she's Yua that like she's reading Mia. She forced my head upwards. She flipped through the pages with her free hand. and when I saw what was written there, I froze. What the hell was this? Wait, what was this?
日記の最後のページ。ミアが最後に書き残した。その目、誰の目。日付は9月6日。集団ダイブでミアが殺された前日です。
将軍だ。
思考盗撮って何？違うでしょ。違うわ。ストーカーされていたんです。将軍に。あなたに。
僕は将軍じゃ。
あなたの中にいる将軍にです。
This is getting really, really old and really
だから
frustrating.
言ってるじゃないか。将軍は他にいるんだ。
将軍は西条匠です。言い逃れしないで。その目誰の目というあなたが昔書いた作文がその証拠です。他にもいくつもの状況証拠がある。あなたしか考えられない。考えられないのよ。あなたじゃなきゃおかしい。
Wait, you do know that essay was displayed publicly, right?
妹はあなたに殺された。
No, I don't sleepwalk. I don't have DID. Shogun is somebody else. He's not me. He's somebody else.
どう思う？この日記を見てどう思うの？
What I think? I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
ミアを追い詰めて殺して満足？
So, like, I'm assuming that she's so deluded that she can't see that it says Yua's diary.
こんな日記を書かせるぐらい追い詰めて満足？
Oh, man. So far, at the very least, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, a lot of the endings aren't necessarily good until, like, the end. But at the moment, this is shaping up to be probably my least favorite one. She's just so frustrating.
どうしてミアにこんなひどいことをしたの？どうしてミアを殺したの？どうして？
ユアは間違ってる。
You're wrong about everything.
間違ってるのはあなたよ。あなたは人を殺した。殺したじゃない。人殺し。
だってこの日記はユアの日記じゃないか。
なんです？
You look confused. But I'd clearly seen it, just a moment ago, the words on the cover. They read Yua's diary. I thought maybe I'd been mistaken or something, but Yua had just clearly said whose diary this was.
妹の日記です。
Then why hadn't the letters on the cover say Mia's diary?
これはユアの日記だ。表紙にそう書いてある。
何言ってるの？
She didn't even look at it.
これはミアちゃんのよ。死んだミアちゃんの日記。あなたに殺されたミアちゃんの。ミアちゃんのなのよ。ミアちゃんが書いた。死ぬ前に書いたの。
だったら表紙を見てよ。
Yua closed the notebook and looked down at it, unconcerned, and then she turned back to me.
やっぱりミアちゃんの日記だわ。
Huh? You saw it. I just saw you looking at it. I saw you looking at the words Yua's diary. So why?
これはミアちゃんが書いた日記。私を騙そうとしたの。騙されるわけないでしょ。私はミアちゃんとずっと一緒に育ってきたんだから。生まれてからずっと一緒だったんだから。あなたなんかよりずっと、私の方がミアちゃんのことを知ってる。知ってるの。
ユアには見えないの。はっきり書いてあるじゃないか。それはユアの日記。
Yua suddenly put her hands up to her temples. Her expression was twisted in pain.
違う。この日記は私じゃなくて、ミアちゃんが、私。 西条くんに自覚があるはずないから。あなたは DID 多重人格なんです。
君は誰だ？
私はユア。私は
Was she the one with DID, not me?
楠木美也なんて実在するの？
I think I mentioned this last episode. I don't remember if I did, but like it's possible that she might be an only child, but she has two personalities and that they end up being twins. I feel like I said that last episode, but I don't remember. But maybe that is what it is. I don't know though, because the police did have like records saying that this person jumped. I feel like they physically had to be twins. I don't think it's gonna be a multiple personality thing with Yua and Mia being two different personalities. I think they should be two different people. All the victims were underage. Don't they usually try to keep the names of the underage victims out of the media? Or maybe
ユアに双子の妹なんて本当にいたの？
maybe Mia Kusunoki was real, but maybe Mia Kusunoki wasn't actually Yua Kusunoki's twin. Maybe they both really had similar names, but they were completely different people.
ヒルア。
Yua suddenly started to strangle me. Her fingers were thin and frail, but her strength was incredible. I couldn't breathe.
いたわよ。ミヤちゃんは確かにいた。はっきり覚えてるもの。
証明。
Prove it. Prove it. Where is your source? Yua relaxed her fingers.
自分は DID じゃないって証明できるの？楠木美也じゃないって証明できるの？
I couldn't. I'd only been able to be sure that I wasn't Shogun when the real Shogun had shown up in front of me.
できるわ。
Yua's hand moved away from my throat. She threw down the notebook.
ミヤちゃんにはほくろがあった。
She began to take off her top. The fan service
左
time!
胸の下、そこにほくろがあった。私にはないほくろ。
Wait, what was it? Below her left breast, there was a mole there. Okay, left breast. Slowly fumbling, she began to undo the buttons one by one. Oh! She took off her bra too. She hid her large chest with her hands as she tried to look under her left breast. It is there. I looked too. And I could see that it's right there! There was a mole there.
ある。
あるよ。
どうして私にはほくろはないはずなのに。私誰？
Oh my god, who am I? Instead of who are you? That is a very much a reoccurring phrase here. Her face was pale and her lips were shaking. Her vision was starting around her. She wrapped her arms around her body. Her top was still exposed.
私はユア。私はずっといい子で。ミヤちゃんはずっと悪い子で。私はずっといい子になりたくて。ミヤちゃんはユアちゃんが大好きで。ユアちゃんはミヤちゃんが心配で。
Nothing she was saying made any sense. Like always. I shivered. But I didn't feel like running away and leaving her alone. I know exactly what she was going through. I experienced this exact same thing myself, quite recently. Ever since Yua had told me that I had DID, my whole life had felt unstable, so I understood. I knew how it felt to have your whole identity come crashing down around you. I didn't know if it was DID or something else. But there is something wrong with Yua. There had to be for a long time. Her personality changed too drastically from one moment to the next for it to be an act. I remember thinking that the gap between her when she first spoken to me and when she snapped had been way too big for them to be the same person.
ユアは DID なんじゃ。
違う。ちゃんといた。ちゃんといたの。ミヤちゃんはちゃんといた。
Yua reached into her jacket pocket, still covering her chest with one hand. She took out her phone and pulled something up for me to see.
見て。ここにいるでしょ。私たちがいるでしょ。
It's gonna show one. Oh! Okay, so there are two.
あ、
She was. There were two of them. It didn't look like it had been digitally altered. You could tell that they were twins. She looked almost exactly alike. The only difference was the glasses. Even their hairstyles were the same. Okay, so this pretty much confirms that she is Mia. Yua is the one who jumped and died. Maybe they incorrectly ID'd her. Maybe she had Yua's maybe some kind of ID and thought that Mia Kusunoki was the victim of the group jumping? Was that what it was called? I think so. But Mia now thinks that she is Yua.
私はここにいる。
君はどっちなんだ。
私は
She pointed to the left. Thaw the Melto, go! And then the floor began to violently shake. An earthquake? It was bigger than the last one. There was a violent ring in my ears, a high-pitched sound that threatened to split open my head. Yua covered her head with her hands and curled up into a ball. I wanted to do the same, but I couldn't move my hands. It was like thousands of tiny needles being stabbed into my ears. Then... boom! With a terrible impact, my vision turned white. Well, okay, so she doesn't have DID, I'm pretty sure, but she does have some kind of delusion making her think that she is
私た
Yua.
ちは入れ替わった。
Oh, they switched places, like Bond said. There were a lot of students at the Shibuya McD's that night. The girls were talking and having fun, and occasionally breaking into high-pitched laughter. I took a look outside the window and then got out my phone. September 7th, 5:02 p.m. She was 2 minutes late. I felt a little annoyed as I took a bite out of my sandwich. Chicken sandwich.
ごめん、みやちゃん。待たせちゃった？
Yua appeared, holding a tray in one hand. She sat across from me and took a small, deep breath.
うん、待った。5分くらいおまけしてほしいな。あ、みやちゃんもチキンバーガー？私もだよ。
She pointed to the chicken sandwich on her tray. We were twins, so of course our tastes were pretty much the same. She didn't need to point it out every time, but still, she looked happy.
みやちゃんとこうして渋谷で会うのって初めてだよね。
My school wasn't in Shibuya and I could always see her at home. I never had a reason to come to Shibuya after school to see her.
私にお願いしたいことって何？私にできることなら何でも言ってね。
I finished my chicken sandwich and took a gulp of my iced tea before leaning towards her.
実はこれから人と会うんだけど。彼氏？そんなんじゃない。今まで一度も会ったことない人たち。たちって何人？4人かな。どういう関係なの？ネットで知り合った人。別にやましい関係とかじゃないから。アニメのファンサイトみたいな掲示板があるんだけど、そこで。へえ。私、インターネットなんて全くやらないからよくわからないけど、そうやってネットで知り合うことってよくあるの？まあね。でも、オフ会は私も初めてで。みえちゃん人見知りだもんね。人見知りじゃない。人に合わすのが苦手なだけ。
Oh, she's shy. She's shy. She wants her Nissan's help.
そういうことにしておいてあげる。で、大
Wait,
丈夫なの？初めての人たち相手にうまく話せそう？
they're saying Yua was like a social butterfly, but she doesn't know how to use the internet. Oh man. Cap.
本当は会おうと思ってたんだけど、今になって怖くなっちゃったんだ。めんどくさくなっただけ。でも、ドタキャンするのも悪いし。私が代わりに行けばいいのね。
Yua was sharp. She usually knew what I was going to say before I said it. Sometimes she could get on my nerves that way, but today I was happy that I didn't need to explain anything to her.
そういうこと。お願いしていい？
It's kind of nice that these siblings actually looks like they genuinely cared for each other, because like it really sounded like, you know, well, the Yua we know made it sound like Mia cared a lot for Yua and would do like essentially sacrifice her life so that Yua would have a happy life. But Yua also seems like to be the older sister that really tried her best to help her younger sister. But it's just her younger sister often didn't accept help. But I guess in this case, she she's glad to be able to help her.
別にいいけど、ミヤちゃんはそれでいいの？友達、そんな小学生みたいな扱いしないでよ。別に友達を作りたいわけじゃないし。
I don't need friends.
もう、ミヤちゃんは本当に意地っ張りなんだから。言ってくれる？うん、わかった。私は、楠ミヤになりきればいいのよね。そこまでしなくてもいいけど。
That's where the twin shenanigans come into play.
どうせならとことんやった方が面白いじゃない。そうだ、制服も入れ替えようよ。
Give me your clothes.
なんでそんなにはしゃいでるの？ミヤちゃんから頼み事されるなんてめったにないでしょ。
Yeah, there we
だから嬉しい
go.
の。ユアちゃん、バカみたい。
バカみ
どうせバカ
たい。
なお姉さんですよーだ。ほら、そうと決まれば着替えちゃおうよ。
Yua grabbed my hand. And pulled me into a bathroom stall where we switched everything we owned.
ミヤちゃん、水泳の制服似合うね。きっと、お父さんやお母さんでもどっちがどっちなのか見分けつかないよ。
Oh, she had to keep her glasses because she actually does have bad eyesight, which is why they found a pair of glasses there.
あ、でも、メガネかけてたら一発でバレちゃうかな。これも外して、行くのはちょっと難しいかも。何も見えなくなっちゃう。初対面の相手なんだからここまでしなくてもよかったのに。もうまだ言ってるし、待ち合わせの時間そろそろなんでしょ？それまで打ち合わせしておこうよ。私、アニメのことちっともわからないけど、何を話せばいいの？
Bloodtoon!
適当に相槌打ってればいいよ。どうせ一回こっきりしか会わない人たちなんだし。そんなことないよ。この出会いを通してお友達付き合いすることになるかもしれないでしょ。もしかしたら彼氏もできちゃうかも。
Oh!
興味ない。あるくせに。なかったら会う約束なんてしないもの。うるさいな。頑張って、楠ミヤはとってもいい子ですっていうのを印象づけてくるね。本当に、そういうのはいいってば。
It'd only make it harder to meet them a second time. I wasn't as social as Yua was.
それじゃ、行ってくるね。
I guess that's why I guess Mia was hurt so badly because the real Yua ended up essentially dying for something that she was supposed to take part in.
よろしく。そこまで頑張らなくていいから。はいはい。じゃあね、ミヤちゃん。
Yua gave me a happy wave. She was wearing my uniform, carrying my bag, and then she disappeared into the Shibuya crowd. I see. That was the last time I saw her. I went home and waited for her. Until I saw what happened on the news. Oof, that really does hurt. No, my room's destroyed again. No! All my figures. Oh! I woke up with a splitting headache. The bed had fallen on top of me, I realized. I wasn't just feeling the pain from the headache, but the weight of the bed pressing into my back. I couldn't move my head, so I moved my eyes to look around the room. Mia, was slumped up against the wall. She'd been half naked before the quake, but now she had put on her clothes. From the looks of it, it was strange to see her without her glasses. Her glasses had fallen at my feet. The lens had broken.
助けて。紐、ほどいてよ。
I called out to her, trying to fight the pain in my head. She looked at me with empty eyes.
思い出したの。
I didn't really care what she remembered, though. just untie me! I can't move with this thing on top of me.
思い出したのよ。
She slowly stood up. She wasn't wearing her glasses, but even in the darkness, she could see clearly enough to untie the knots holding me. Finally free, I managed to crawl out from under the bed. But that was all I could do. Just like the last earthquake, this one had left me with a splitting headache. It hurt too much to even stand. I was forced to crawl on the ground in pain.
ユアちゃんだったのよ。
She was whispering something to herself again.
集団ダイブで死んだのは、ミヤじゃない。ユアちゃんだった。
ユア、何を？
私は、ユアじゃない。
She laughed.
私は、ミアよ。自分を、ユアちゃんだって思い込んでただけ。あの日、私たちは入れ替わったの。それでユアちゃんは死んだ。本当は、私が死ぬはずだったのに。
Suddenly, the expression disappeared from her face. Her eyes were still empty. She offered me a hand.
西条くん、もう、将軍のことなんて、どうでもよくなっちゃった。結局、ユアちゃんは私が死なせたようなものだから。
Uh-oh.
ねえ、一緒に来てほしい。
どこへ？
ユアちゃんが死んだ場所。一緒に来てくれるだけでいい。
I wonder if she's seen the video of the group dive. I mean, she probably would have because she would have scoured the internet for like anything related to it because that's how much she cared about her sister. But I mean, I feel like there are several things that probably would have alerted her if she actually saw the video.
お願い。
Please. And then I understood. Yua, no, Mia was planning to die. I wasn't sure if I should stop her, but I realized nothing I said would make a difference. So I took her hand and, with her help, tried to stand up. There was a stabbing pain in my head. It felt like my vision was turning red. I could feel the sound of the blood pumping through my head. It hurt too much to move.
歩ける？
Mia wrapped her arms around me to support me.
歩いてくれないと困るわ。一緒に来てほしいの。私を助けると思って。お願い。
I don't give a fuck. You tortured me for like a week. Oh, man. I don't know if this ending is doing Yua any favors, to be honest. I was kind of neutral on her, a little bit, maybe a little bit negative, but now it's like, I really don't really care for her. With her help, I managed to head towards Shibuya Station. Shibuya was now a city of death. There were bodies everywhere. Some were covered in blood, some had severed limbs, some had crushed heads. It was a scene out of a nightmare. There was nothing remaining of the brightly lit city I knew, only death and ash and despair. There were huge cracks in the asphalt roads, and the streets could have caved in at any time. Huge chunks of concrete had fallen off the buildings and were blocking the roads, making it impossible to travel in a straight line. But Mia and I just kept walking, oblivious to the cries for help around us. We went towards a huge figure of Cornelius Tower in the distance. The tower was mostly undamaged. Parts of the exterior were crumbling, but it had survived the earthquake and was still standing straight. As near as I could tell from the outside, all the lights were off. Maybe everyone had already evacuated, and it was empty. So, neither of us have a D-sword. As expected, there was no one in the lobby, and no electricity. The elevators weren't working. We were forced to use the emergency stairs instead. Ooh, this is a new, staircase CG. Cornelius Tower had 41 stories. It was 184 meters tall. I learned those two bits of trivia while researching the group dive case online. It was crazy to try and climb up the stairs, especially since I could barely walk with this headache. But with Yua's help, I managed to start climbing the stairs, one at a time, as the sweat poured down my body.
お父さんとお母さんは、私が自分のことをユアちゃんだって言い出して、気を使って私をユアとして扱って、ミアが死んだことにしたのかも。
Mia was talking to herself. I just listened. No, maybe I didn't even need to listen. It felt like she wasn't talking so that I could hear her.
昔からそうだった。私は生意気な娘だったから、両親はいつも私を腫れ物にでも触るかのように扱ったわ。ミアを死んだことにするなんてね。親はユアちゃんよりミアに死んでほしかったのかもしれない。それも全部私のせいだけど。自
Oh
分がユアちゃ
man.
んだと思い込んだ私のせいよ。
Like, I can get her plight, but like, I feel like it's really hard to justify all the things that have happened just due to how little she refused to actually listen to others. Not just Takumi. I can understand why she wouldn't listen to Takumi because, you know, he is her prime suspect, but I feel like you have to listen to facts. And like, she even tried to bring it up to like professionals, and they were like, no, it literally can't happen.
ユアちゃんが死んだみたいに私も死ねばいいのよ。
ユアはどんな人だったの？
憧れだった。羨ましかった。たまにイラついたりしたけど、嫌いじゃなかった。むしろ、大好きだった。ゆあちゃんのこと、大好きだった。私のことを分かってくれる、たった一人の。ゆあちゃんが笑顔でいてくれれば、私はどんなに辛いことがあっても嬉しかった。
Oh man.
いつも私のこと心配してくれたわ。心配させてるのが申し訳なくて、私はつい冷たく接してた。それなのに、いつも優しくて、ゆあちゃん。
She wept silently as she walked up the stairs. Were they tears of regret? Of sorrow? Of guilt? I couldn't tell. Back on this roof, the wind on the heliport was stronger than I thought. You had a 360-degree view of the Shibuya night sky up here, but there was no beauty to be seen, only darkness. I could just barely make out Tokyo Tower and the Roppongi bills in the distance. Below us, the city of Shibuya was dead silent. There was almost no light. The darkness hid the shattered remains of the city. If it was daytime, I might have been astonished at the sight below me.
西条くん。もしよかったら。
Would you die with me? Mia let go of me. I collapsed right to the ground.
一緒に飛んでくれない？
Why would I? She was staring out into the distance. Her hair was blowing in the wind and hiding her expression. I couldn't see the look on her face. I'd known that she'd come here to jump. She was going to follow after her sister. I knew exactly what my answer was.
やだね。
Hell no!
僕は死にたくない。なんで僕を監禁した女と心中しなくちゃいけないんだ。
そう言うと思った。
Unfortunately, you don't have a choice. She started to walk towards the edge of the heliport, staggering occasionally in the strong wind.
そうそう。西条くんと予約しに行ったセイラちゃんのフィギュア。
She suddenly stopped and turned around.
ちゃんと買ったのよ。とても可愛くてセクシーだね。すっかり気に入っちゃって、私の部屋の机の上に飾ってあるの。
It's kind of nice that she actually had, like, a genuine interest in the same interest that Takumi did. It kind of sucks that, like, you know, she's still kind of crazy, but, like, at least that wasn't faked. Her smile was frail. Why was she telling me this now?
そんなこと言っても、僕は君に同情しない。
同情なんて求めてないわ。それじゃ、さよなら、西条くん。
Wait, what?
私を殺した人。私も、ゆあちゃんのところに行くね。
Oh, wow. Everything Nishijo said made perfect sense. It was strange, but what I felt was loneliness, a sad ache in the bottom of my heart. In the end, I was never able to prove for myself that he was Shogun. Maybe he was right, and I was wrong. Either way, there was no point in hating him anymore. If I hadn't asked Yua to take my place at the meetup, she wouldn't have died. She shouldn't have been the one to die. She was smart, pretty, she had lots of friends, and her parents loved her. But she died. Yua Kusinoki had died. At the same time, Mia Kusinoki had disappeared. She'd become like a ghost. That was the choice I'd made. I didn't know if I was alive or dead anymore. Yua was gone too. I'd be better off dead. I stood on the edge of the heliport. This was where Yua and the other four had leapt to their deaths. I looked down and suddenly felt dizzy. There was barely any light below me, but still, I could feel just how high up I was. How had Yua felt when she jumped from this height? Was she scared? I'm sorry for making you scared. I'm going to be with you now. I'm going to suffer the same pain that you suffered. The pain that I was supposed to suffer. I took a deep breath. My heart was at peace. I wasn't afraid to die. I spread out my hands like wings. I closed my eyes. I stepped into the empty air. The ground beneath me vanished. I fell. Oh, wow, she actually did. Oh my god. The world turned upside down. There was nothing left to hold me back. I was falling, but felt like my body was rising. I could hear the roar of the wind. The ground was getting closer. I could see the asphalt below me where Yua had hit the ground, where she'd landed, where every bone in her body had shattered, where her organs had exploded, her blood and her brain matter had scattered everywhere. I don't want to die. Just a few moments ago, I thought that I wasn't scared of death at all, but now I couldn't move. I felt terrified. I don't want to die. Yua had died, but I still want to live? My survival instincts took over completely. I screamed. The scream came up from the bottom of my heart. I reached out frantically to the rapidly receding night sky. I knew that nobody was going to grab it, but still I reached out. I wished. I kept screaming. I don't want to die! But nobody heard my cry. Nobody was there to offer me a hand. The ground was right there. Oh. Oh boy. I could feel the sensation of every bone in my body shattering, but it quickly disappeared. I found myself back on the roof of the Cornelius Tower once more. Joe was right in front of me. He wasn't looking at me, but he was offering me a hand. I jumped and fell 180 meters, smashing my body against the ground. I stared at his hand, too stunned to even wipe away my tears.
気が済んだ。
His voice was cold.
君に死なれるのは困るんだ。まるで僕が突き落としたみたいじゃないか。僕は殺人犯扱いされたくないね。
私、落ちたのに、自分で飛び降りたのに。
妄想でも見てたんじゃない。
Maybe it was just a delusion like your entire life. A delusion? I couldn't believe a delusion could have pain and sensations that felt so real.
ねえ、西条くん、ゆあちゃんは、あんな痛い思いをして死んだんだね。なのに、私、ゆあちゃんと同じ痛みを味わおうとしたのに、私は死にたくないって思っちゃったの。本来死ぬのは私だったのに、死にたくない。
Oh wait, this is like the ending music. Oh, what the hell? It's just gonna end like this?
もう、飛べない。あの痛みを知ってしまったら、もう、怖くて飛べない。私、どうすればいいのか。
今ので、君は一度死んだ。
ええ。
ユアの痛みを知ったなら、もうそれでいいじゃないか。これからはもう一度楠木宮として一から生きていけばいいと思う。
They're making this sound heartwarming, but honestly, I don't know how I feel.
ユアの分まで。
ありがとう。ありがとう。
I reached out and took his hand. It was so very, very warm. I could feel the warmth of his body flowing through, going through his skin. The warmth made me stop shivering. That's gonna be the end of this. What the hell? What the heck is this ending? Okay, I might be harsh. It gave a lot of insight on, you know, Yua's motives along with her thought process, and it really exaggerated her obsession with this case. I thought that part was good, but, and like, you know, the reveal that she was the one who wrote Whose Eyes Are Those on the board, and like going through her thought process and everything was actually really cool, but I can't deny that this ending was really frustrating. Because I think one of the reasons why I didn't like Nanami's as much as the other ones is because all of it, almost all of it, probably 90% of it, just took place in Takami's room, and that place is like extremely boring. And they're already there like 50% of the time, and I guess it's just Yua's personality or Mia's personality. She just keeps repeating herself a lot. I get the point, but like in addition to that aspect of her character and her stubbornness to not listen, it just multiplied it like tenfold, and I could not. And this ending was just all kind of like, I don't think anything really got resolved. The one thing that got resolved was, I guess, Mia's identity crisis. We finally got that deal like dealt with, but everything else, not. Shibuya's still a shithole. Everything still sucks, and nothing good happened. Oh man, I guess at the end you could say like she has like a desire to live, and she can like relate more to. She can at least count on Takumi a little bit, but like Takumi still freaking hates her. He needs her because he needs someone to help fight against Shogun. But like nothing really got resolved. Moon and Sun end. They didn't get their D swords. They didn't really do anything else. Everything just sucks. Okay. Here's the thing I was waiting for. Yes. Now that we've gotten we gotten 87% of the CGs. We've gotten all the endings except for the last one, which is Blue Sky. But let's see. If I were to rank Yua's ending compared to the other ones I ranked, this will be my final list. I'm not gonna compare the Blue Sky one because I think it's just like an alternate ending to like the main story one, if I recall. I think. But if I were to just rank the character endings, I'd put Senna on top, Kozupi, Ayase, Rimi, Nanami, and then Yua. I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't a huge fan of Yua's. I feel like it was just frustrating. And you know, Nanami, I end up kind of liking Nanami. It was kind of really messed up, but like just because it's messed up doesn't mean like I ultimately still had things I enjoyed in it. But Yua's like the parts that made me not like it as much kind of just overtook the parts that I enjoyed. And I liked Mia, like prior to when they switched. I thought she was a pretty sweet girl as well as Yua, but like the character that we came to know as Yua Kusunoki, who turned out to be Mia, I didn't really care about her or really like her that much. a lot of the things that she said felt really fake and whatnot, because we saw like the multiple different personalities that she has, not necessarily identities but personalities, and ultimately it didn't really do a good job of making me like her. While the other ones, like in Nanami's ending, it made me appreciate Takumi and Nanami, because Nanami was always just a good sister, and Takumi learned to appreciate her so much more. And oh man, I'm just I got some like feelings on it, I'm not gonna lie, but I think I've gotten most of what I want to say out. But next time, and for the last time, we'll tackle the Blue Sky and finish off this kind of behemoth of a visual novel, and I'll talk about my overall feelings on this visual novel at the end. But we'll save that for next time, and until then, I will be seeing you. See ya!